From the global resources of ABC News with Terry Moran, Martin Bashir, and Cynthia McFadden, this is Nightline, February 21st, 2008.
Good evening. Tonight, a remarkable look inside a story that's captivated the nation. It began when a 61-year-old man discovered that two men were robbing his neighbour. On the stunning 911 tapes you're about to hear, he warns that he's prepared to shoot both of them. What happened next has become the subject of ferocious debate. Some praise the gunman as a responsible citizen. Others say it was the reckless act of a trigger-happy vigilante. Chris Bury now reports from Houston in Texas.
In Texas, more than ever before, burglars and thieves are on notice.
911, what is your emergency?
Burglars breaking into a house next door.
From this quiet street in an upscale neighborhood outside Houston...
No, you're dead.
...to a junk-strewn yard on the other side of the tracks.
I just shot someone.
Who did you shoot?
The thief.
More Texans are shooting first and asking questions later.
When I came around the corner, I saw the silhouette in my window. I pointed my weapon. I fired 3 times.
In a place where the 6-gun tamed the frontier, shooting bad guys is a time-honored tradition. But since September, a state law based on the idea that a man's home is his castle gives Texans unprecedented legal authority to use deadly force.
I heard a crashing through my window, which was this window right here in my bedroom, and I got my gun.
In December, Damon Barone confronted a burglar breaking into his Houston home in the middle of the night. His baby daughter, 6-year-old son, and wife were asleep when Barone heard the commotion and grabbed his Glock.
So you had your gun, and you saw somebody right in this window here?
Right, through the curtains. I saw their upper torso, and I fired 3 shots at their torso.
Were you shooting him to kill?
Yes.
The burglar he shot dead had a lengthy criminal record. Barone had a permit for his gun. Even before the new law, he certainly could have been justified in using deadly force. But the castle law gives him added protection from criminal prosecution and even civil lawsuits.
Are you absolutely convinced you did the right thing at that moment?
Positive, and if I had to do it again, I would. I mean, it's the safety of my family over us being hurt. It's a no-brainer for me.
But even in Texas, some prosecutors are wary of the new castle law. It expands Texans' right to use deadly force from their homes to vehicles and workplaces. And no longer do they have an obligation to retreat, if possible, before they shoot.
There's too many imponderables with this law, whereas the previous law was working just fine. And frankly, life is precious.
Consider the case of Joe Horn, a retired 61-year-old computer manager who lives in this affluent subdivision in Pasadena, Texas. Last November, he called 911 to report a burglary in broad daylight at the house next door.
I've got a shotgun. Do you want me to stop him?
Nope, don't do that. Ain't no property worth shooting somebody over, okay?
Joe Horn sounds clearly upset.
I'm not going to let him get away with it. I can't take a chance on getting killed over this, okay?
No.
I'm going to shoot. I'm going to shoot.
But the 911 dispatcher warns Horn to stay inside at least a dozen separate times.
I've got officers coming out there. I don't want you to go outside that house.
Then Horn, sounding angrier by the moment, cites the new Texas law.
But I have a right to protect myself too, sir, and
Yes,
you understand that.
Yes,
and the laws have been changed in this country since September the 1st, and you know it and I know it.
Moments later, Horn sees 2 burglars leave his neighbor's house, one of them carrying a bag filled with cash and jewelry.
Okay, stay in the house.
They're getting away.
That's all right. Property's not worth killing someone over. Okay?
God damn it.
But Horn defies the dispatcher.
Well, here it goes, buddy. You hear the shotgun clicking, and I'm going.
Don't go outside.
Joe Horn says he came out of his door, down the porch to see what was going on, and confronted the 2 burglars who were near that tree only a few feet away.
The next sounds you hear are Joe Horn ordering the 2 men to stop and then shooting them.
Move! You're dead!
Then Horn calls 911 again.
Get the law over here quick, man. Get one of them's in the front yard over there. He's down. The other one's run down the street.
Where
I had
are
no
you?
charge. They came in the front yard with me, man. I
Did
shot
you
him, okay?
shoot somebody, Mr. Horn?
Yes, I did.
Where were the suspects shot?
Both the suspects were hit in the back.
They were both shot in the back.
Right, not at the same angle, but both suspects were hit in the back.
Killed were two illegal immigrants from Colombia, Diego Ortiz and Miguel de Jesus, whose fiancée now wants to see Joe Horn prosecuted.
This man took the law into his own hands. He shot two individuals in the back after being told over and over to stay inside. It was his choice to go outside and his choice to take two lives.
After the shootings, Horn was not arrested, but a grand jury will now decide whether he should face any charges. Horn turned down our request for an interview. His attorney insists Horn was entirely justified.
He was afraid for his life. He's afraid for his safety. And then they charged him. I don't think Joe had an opportunity to make a conscious decision. I think he only had time to react to what was going on. So, short answer is he was defending his life.
On the tape, the dispatcher is clearly heard asking him not to go outside.
Correct. Joe was doing what he thought was necessary. As a man, he thought that it was his duty to protect his house, his neighborhood, his community.
The Horn case has aroused plenty of passion. At this demonstration outside his home, police in riot gear stood by as activists demanded prosecution.
We believe that it's not right for anyone to become judge, jury, and executioner.
And counter-demonstrators defended Horn, including a group of bikers led by Randy Laird.
In this grand jury decision, we look for a complete acquittal. No charge of any kind. And that's what we believe will be right. And that's what's going to either make the Castle Doctrine stand or fall.
But the critical legal question may be whether Horn acted in a reasonable way to defend his neighbor's property.
You cannot take another person's life in defense of their property unless you're somehow given permission by the other person to protect their property.
On that 911 call, the dispatcher asks Horn directly about the owners of the house that's being burglarized.
I mean, you know your neighbors?
No, I really don't know these neighbors. I know the neighbors on the other side really well. I can assure you if it had been their house, I'd already done something.
Do you think in this case Joe Horn had his neighbor's permission?
Absolutely. There's no question about it. And they would tell you today that they are very happy that he was there and he was watching out. Every neighbor in the state of Texas watches out for one another.
In most situations, calling 911 is the appropriate remedy, not calling out for your 9mm.
Damon Barone, who killed a burglar in his own home, isn't sure whether Joe Horn was justified, but he does believe the Castle law has already delivered a crystal clear message to criminals.
Here in Texas, what is the occupational hazard of burglarizing someone's home?
The occupational hazard is death. If you're lucky, you get arrested and go to jail.
So, in Texas, the old tradition of shooting bad guys carries on. The big question now is whether a man's castle also includes his neighbor's home. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in Houston.